Dear learners, welcome you all to e-learning platform. Now you have reached week 6. Week 6. In this week you will learn a new poem, Easter 1916, which is closely related to the independence history of Ireland, written by W. Yeats. Me, Faisal Ahmed, as usual, throughout the whole lecture with you, faculty member, Department of English, World University of Bangladesh. Let's begin. Right, in this lesson you will learn an introduction to the poem Easter 1916 with a historical background. Then poem recitation with text analysis, a brief synopsis of the poem, the structure, form and style of the poem, and critical commentary on the poem. Introduction to the poem Easter 1916 with a historical background. William Butler Yeats wrote Easter 1916 in the summer of 1916, shortly after the Easter Rising in Dublin, and when the events were still fresh in the memory. Yeats had conflicted feelings towards the Rising, since he deplored violence in most cases as a way of achieving Irish independence from the British. In Easter 1916, Yeats refers to a number of key figures in the struggle for Irish independence, although without naming them. The leaders of the Rising were ultimately executed, and Yeats' poem balances critique of the rebellion and its political extremism with admiration for the rebels' dedication and bravery for the independence of their country, Ireland, during the First World War and against the British imperialism. So the historical background. What is Easter Rising? Easter Rising is the rebellion to overthrow British rule in Ireland in 1916 and set up an Irish Republic democracy against the imperialistic and colonialistic approach of the British Empire. Britain caught unaware as its forces were focused on the First World War. The rebels surrendered on 29th April in 1916 after onslaught by British forces in Dublin. Public opinion turns to support Rising or the revolution after leaders executed. Over 450 people killed and 2,500 wounded in the movement, rebellion, revolution, or the Rising for democracy and independence. So now, let me recite the poem for you. So this poem is divided into 4 stanzas. Second and fourth stanza consist of 24 lines. First and third stanza consist of 16 lines. So altogether the poem is comprised of 8 lines. 24, 48 lines, and 16, 32. So 32 and 48, 8 lines altogether. So let's begin the recitation. I have met them at close of day, coming with vivid faces, from counter or desk among grey 18th century houses. I have passed with a nod of the head, or polite meaningless words, or have lingered a while and said, polite meaningless words, and thought before I had done of a mocking tale or a jibe to please a companion around the fire at the club, being certain that they and I but lived where motley is worn, all changed utterly, a terrible beauty is born. That women's days were spent in ignorant goodwill, her nights in argument, until her voice grew shrill. What voice more sweet than hers? When young and beautiful, she rode to harriers. This man had kept his school and rode our winged horse. This other, his helper and friend, was coming into his force. He might have won fame in the end, so sensitive his nature seemed, so daring and sweet his thought. This other man I had dreamed, a drunken, vainglorious lout. Here is the illustration. 1916 Rising in Ireland, where the heroes stood against the British oppression and suppression and imperialistic autocracy. Stanza 2. He had done most bitter wrong to some who were near my heart, yet I number him in the song. He too has resigned his part in the casual comedy. He too has been changed in his turn. Transformed utterly, a terrible beauty is born. Stanza 3. Hearts with one purpose alone, through summer and winter, seem enchanted to a stone to travel the living stream. The horse that comes from the road, the rider, the birds that range from cloud to tumbling cloud. Minute by minute the change, a shadow of cloud on the stream changes minute by minute. A horse hoof slides on the brim, and a horse flashes within it. The long-legged moor hens dive, and hens to moorcock's skull. Minute by minute they leave the stones in the midst of all. Here is another illustration of the rising. Just have a look. Stanza 4. Too long a sacrifice can make a stone of the heart. Oh, when made suffice? That is heaven's path, our path to murmur, name upon name, as a mother names her child, and sleep at last has come on limbs that had run wild. What is it but nightfall? No, no, not night, but death. Was it needless death after all? For England may keep faith for all that is done and said. We know their dream, enough to know the dreamed and are dead. And what if excess of love bewildered them till they died? I write it out in a verse, MacDonagh and MacBride and Connolly and Pearse, now and in time to be, wherever green is worn, are changed utterly, a terrible beauty is born. Here is another illustration. Have another look on this. Blood upon the Rose, Easter 1916, the rebellion that set Ireland free or independent. This is created by Gary Hunt. A brief synopsis of the poem, Easter 1916. It commemorates the martyrs of the Easter Rising in Ireland and insurrection against the British government in Ireland in 1916 during the First World War, which resulted in the execution of several Irish nationalists whom Yeats knew personally. The poem examines the nature of heroism and its incongruity with everyday life. Structure of the poem, form and style. Star 1916. In Star 1916, Yeats uses the meter of iambic tetrameter and iambic trimeter. Tetrameter comprises of 4 rhyme scheme, while trimeter is 3 rhyming scale. The rhyme scheme of the poem alternates rhyming lines in an ABAB form. Total 80 lines in 4 stanzas. First and third stanza comprise of 16 lines. Second and fourth stanza consist of 24 lines. So altogether 80 lines. First and third stanza. Okay. Right. Critical commentary on the poem, Easter 1916. Poem's structure has an undersurface meaning. The 24 lines of the second and fourth stanzas may represent the 24th day of April, and the 16 lines of the first and third stanzas may represent the year 1916. So this is an assumption and critics comment over the poem, over the structure of the poem. A terrible beauty is born. So what does this sentence or words mean? A terrible beauty is born refers to the beauty of the Irish rebellion movement being started after terrible death, destruction and sacrifice, and then they get the independence. So that is, the independence is beauty and their sacrifice is terrible or horrible. So terrible death and destruction at the hands of the British. The revolutionary movement began in earnest after the Easter 1916 uprising. A terrible beauty is born. The words that in 3 of the 4 long stanzas that make up Easter 1916, with each new repetition of them, changing them slightly. All change utterly. So this line, this rhyming scheme or couplets we got 4 times in the poem. So this is a kind of repetition. For among other things, Easter 1916 is about the tension between change and permanence, steadfastness and flexibility, and nowhere is this seen more clearly perhaps than in Yeats' use of the stone in the 3rd and 4th stanzas of Easter 1916. Here is an illustration. This is an illustration or cover page of a book, the title of which is Easter Rising 1916, The Trials, written by Scene in Wright. A terrible beauty is born. This bears closer analysis. In the 3rd stanza, Yeats presents the stone as something dependable and solid in the midst of a living stream. The waters may flow over it, but the stone remains. Yet in the 4th stanza, the emphasis on the stone shifts slightly. Too long a sacrifice can make a stone of the heart. Oh, handmaid suffice. So these 3 lines have been extracted from the poem. Major themes in the poem are heroism and bravery, personal fulfillment and public sacrifice, death and mourning. Symbols appeared in Easter 1916 or used by the poet William Butler Yeats. Stone, green, terrible beauty. So these are the symbols. Stone symbolizes or represents the unmoving determination of the rebels, the rebels had for independence. Much of stanza 3 is spent creating a complex image of a stone in the river. Green, the color green symbolizes Irish culture. So Irish cultural color is green. When you visit Ireland, you see green, green, and green. The nature is green. The people uses green. The people love green as well in everywhere, in everything. Terrible beauty. This is another symbol. Terrible beauty refers to the effects of the uprising in Ireland, which is metaphorical symbol or intangible one. So here is another illustration which is written in Irish language as well as English. The provisional government of the Irish Republic Poblas na Age Irian to the people of Ireland. I mean the first republic, okay, and was comprised of these people, these leaders: Connolly, MacDonagh, Plunkett, Pearse, Clark, McDermott, and Seant. So Plunkett related to this image, Seant related to this image, okay. The name, the first one is beneath the picture and the second one is above the pictures, under and above. Here is the end of the lesson. Thank you very much. You will learn new things, okay, a new topic next week. So until then, goodbye.